Oh, Janet, you are wonderful. Always there to make us feel warm and cozy. Your words always satisfy the market, regardless of what they are. There's no way this could ever turn negative as long as Mama Yellen is on the watch. And now back to reality. You came here for the truth. Let's look at this graphic right away. The financial impact of sovereign debt around the world. This is for 2017. This map shows countries' debt and their ability to pay it back. So remember that this is what this website is suggesting, not me. But the United States is 20 trillion, Japan is 11 trillion. Then you look at a country like Greece at 339 billion. So what the map is suggesting is that the bigger the debt, the bigger the problem. But the website talks about debt to GDP instead. So I'll scroll down for a moment here. Saying that you shouldn't look at the total amount of debt, but look at the debt to GDP ratio as a more accurate way to look at things. And you have Japan being number one, then Greece, and so on. While I do agree with that in principle, it doesn't mean, and what they suggest here is saying that, look, $20 trillion in debt isn't that big of a deal. Okay, guys? Come on. Get with the program. It's just 20 trillion. We're not even in the top 10 worst countries. So we don't have anything to worry about. Even Canada, a country filled with igloos, is here in number 7. So there's no need to worry. Everything is going to be okay. Well, we know that's not the case. What I would just say about this is that when you look at something, and I know the majority of my subscribers on here know exactly what I'm talking about, you don't take it at face value. You have to investigate it. You have to keep digging. And so that's what you need to do with any financial figure that you see. 20 trillion in debt. Look, it's not going to be paid back. We know that. Does it mean that the US is in a worse predicament than Greece? Maybe not. Also, you have to look at the fact that there are pockets. There are pockets everywhere. Look at real estate. Well, if I say real estate prices are increasing, well, what country? Okay, the US. I believe it's 5.5%. 5.5% year over year. But what about Detroit? Or what about San Francisco? Oh, okay, well then you get a different picture. And so on. And you keep breaking it down. And then you look at the situation in Europe. It's terrible. It's really bad. Everyone is suffering. Well, is that just a generalization? Because not all areas, not all countries are suffering, and not all areas within those countries are suffering. Some are prospering. So remember that. That's all. Looking at the Fed funds rate, this is basically the interest rate that the Fed sets. And obviously, you know what's up here. That financial crisis hits. They decide that they're going to bring the interest rates down. And then they have started to increase them. And the number that it's showing you just behind here is 1.16. So they're bringing this number up very, very cautiously. They started doing this a few years ago, and it has taken a very long time just to get this off the ground. And they're already struggling. Now, we've been told that they are going to unwind the balance sheet and they are going to increase interest rates more. Well, let's just look at what old Yellen had to say about that. In a speech on Tuesday marked by large doses of both statistics and humility, Federal Reserve Chairwoman Janet Yellen said that the economic outlook is highly uncertain. Okay? How many times have you heard me talk about this? Suggesting that the central bank will proceed slowly in raising interest rates and scaling back easy money policies. Whoa, wait a second. They just told me, they just literally had a meeting and said that they would go ahead and increase interest rates, they would actually engage in unwinding of the balance sheet because the economy is doing well. Were we lied to? The Fed has been moving to reduce monetary support for the economy based on an assessment of the labor market as strengthening at inflation, which has been unusually low. Will soon stabilize. Unusually low inflation. All right. So according to the fake numbers, inflation is less than 2%. Less than 2%. You tell me out there, wherever you are, in fact, not even if you're in the US, do you think that your food and energy prices are anywhere near 2% increase every year? I can tell you for myself, definitely more expensive. You have to go and seek more deals. You have to look out for things. You have to be more investigative even in this way to find the cheapest companies offering the better services or cheaper services. And you can't just, not be smart. You have to investigate it. That's inflation. That's real inflation. All right? This is her quote. My colleagues and I may have misjudged the strength of the labor market, the degree to which longer run inflation expectations are consistent with our inflation objective, or even the fundamental forces driving inflation. She added that downward pressure on inflation could prove to be unexpectedly persistent. Now, I don't really care necessarily what she says. I just love it, truly love it, when they say they were wrong. They've always been wrong, at least if you take whatever they do at face value, their actions. They're always too slow. They shouldn't even be in this game anyway, but that's a whole different topic. And here we are, Janet Yellen admitting what's happening. Look, if you want to get the economy going, you have to take the ball and chain off the ankle. Start by doing that. Lowering interest rates, maybe, I could see that. Printing $4.5 trillion and giving them to banks and institutions around the world that we're not allowed to know about, and then conducting $16 trillion worth of secret, not even loans, secret gifts to who knows who all around the world. That doesn't do any good for us. That's just a fraud. The whole monetary system is a fraud. That's what I'm trying to bring up, but constantly being ridiculed. I'm probably the most ridiculed person who's very consistent, very straightforward information, and yet I'm ridiculed so often for something like this. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Clearly, I'm unfazed by it. 1,500 plus videos. U.S. consumer confidence fell. Can you believe it? Fell in September, and home sales dropped to an 8-month low in August due to the hurricanes. Well, what they said was that don't worry, because the fourth quarter, all of these are going to be up simply because of the hurricanes, and now everything needs to be rebuilt. I'm one to believe that any sort of conditions, bad things happening, I'm trying to choose my words carefully because of the whole issue that I'm experiencing here. When people on one side are shooting at people on the other side, you know what I'm talking about? When that occurs, people generally in finance and everything suggest that that is a time in which the economy is booming, because you have a lot of infrastructure and industrials are needed and everything else. I'm one to disagree with that. I think that it takes away from the real economy personally, and that was experienced, 1939. Took a very long time for the stock market to recover. Anyway, I think that consumer confidence has always been down, but they are always worried. Like, you may see the spending is high, but the actual worry that people have about not being able to pay their next bill should they lose their job, well, oh yeah, that's terrible. Those statistics are terrible. So as one of the most desirable employers in Silicon Valley, Facebook has built a small town square for staff at its headquarters in Menlo Park. So basically they have all these services and everything available to those people who work there. However, they have individuals who are subcontracted contingent workers who are, for example, security guards and janitors, okay? So people making generally lower wages, and they're basically saying, they're happy to be working. However, this individual had to get 3 jobs. So they do their one job between like 10 o'clock, where does it say on here? 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock and 10 o'clock or something. And then in the morning, he's a Lyft driver. And on the weekends, he does another job. So 3 jobs in total, basically working all the time. And that's the way he affords the place that he lives in. It's not a very nice place. This is the way that people have been surviving, and they're working at such a big company. People are getting lots of money. The people, not the subcontracted contingent workers, but other people get to go and use the services of the, what do they use here? Like, for example, valets and everything else. Those using the services are, benefiting from it, but those working there doing those services don't have the same benefits. So one of the issues, the reasons I bring this up, is that what we have is a situation like they're going to build a whole bunch of homes or living spaces for the people who work at Facebook, and 225 of these living spaces are going to be actually below market value, and they're doing this to help the people out, right? So that's fine. That's great. It's great, sure. The question I have is, what's being done to address the reason why the average worker, especially somebody working 3 jobs, even if they're low-paying jobs, cannot afford to live? How are they employed by 3 separate employers and they somehow can't make ends meet? That's what I want to know. Some people want to know the PE ratios and when it goes, Apple's goes from a PE ratio of 100 to 101, and if it moves down to 99, then how does that affect the 200-day moving averages and the 50-day moving averages? And you're looking at the charts and the lines and the graphs and I want to know about real people. That's what concerns me, because when the stuff hits the fan, suddenly all those statistics mean very, very little. All right, that's all for this video. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. I do appreciate the thumbs up, because when you give me those, first of all, it addresses the fact that I need to know what content you like, what content you don't like. So I look at that every day. And also when you give me a thumbs up or even a thumbs down, that helps to push these videos up, higher up in the YouTube search rankings. So I do appreciate that very much. And last but not least, if you found this video informative, I know you will find my books, The Money GPS, and my newer release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can flip through these books over at Amazon. The links are in the description below. Take care.